Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my first power rankings for the season at the end of week 2. I didn't really have a point of doing one in week 1, just not enough info yet for me personally, but here we are. We're going to go through this in a little bit of a set order, so I'm going to go over all of the matches that were played in week 2 with a quick one or two sentence summary for all of them. And then I'm going to show the league standing as it currently stands, and then I'm going to go over strength of schedule with you guys. And then I'm going to get into the actual power ranking itself. So, the week 2 matchups. So let's get into these week 2 matchups. First off, starting with KD with a 2-0 win over Cheat to Win. My note is a quote from KD. "You gotta prep for my other team." Cheat to Win was too focused on mouse hit, which you have to be ready for, but he just wasn't ready for Discharge Earthquake. Next up is Kid versus Eevee with a 2-0 win in favor of Kid here. This was a battle of the Tailwind Birds. Talonflame is the better of the two. Talonflame ended up winning. And the team that I liked the most going into this season continues to be scariest, being Kid's. Everything about his team I just love, and he's on a good start too. Next up is myself versus the Snowman. The only note I got about this one was my Wo-Chien can get kills. He's not just a support mon to pollen puff and heal up. My Wo-Chien got 6 kills. Put respect on the boy's name. Next is Crystal and Stax, with Stax having a 2-0 win. I had to get a bit of a written rundown from Stax about how this game went, and he gave me a very, very detailed thing, but I gotta really shorten it down because I do not got time to go over that whole thing. The rundown kind of looks like this. Stax prepped perfectly. He had to worry about Lycanroc Hippowdon. He had Terra, Water to Serena. He had to worry about Dondozo. He had Curse on his Miss Magius. Next up is Gengar World and Mike. And this one is kind of a unfortunate loss. Showdown kind of told Mike something that the actual game doesn't do. It told him that if he was facing a weakness or a mirror herb Pokemon like the Crocodile, and it was the Colossal's effect plus a weakness poly that got activated, the Crocodile would only copy the speed. It didn't. It copied the speed plus the attack boosts, which kind of really put Game 1 in favor of Gengar. Game 2, he crawled it back. But Game 3, Goldingo and Crocodile was just too powerful of a combo for him to overcome. And the final match of the week was Seth and Jordan. Seth getting a 2-0 win. Game 1 was a great opening by Jordan, but he just couldn't finish the game off. And what I've seen from these first couple of weeks is Seth is probably one of the best players that I've seen making his Game 1 to Game 2 adjustments. If he doesn't have the best Game 1, you are basically guaranteed that he's going to have a perfect Game 2. So if you can't get that quick finish on him in Game 1, in Game 2 he's going to finish the set. Alright, here is a look at the table after Week 2. At the top we got Stax and KD tied for first with a differential of 4. Then Seth, Gengar World, Kid, Mike Black and White, and myself tied for 6th and 7th. Starl, Cheat to Win, Jordan, Eevee, and the Snowman rounding out the table. Now I'm going to move on and talk to you guys about strength of schedule, which is a simple little math calculation that just basically takes into account who you've played and who have your opponents played, and it spits out who's had the hardest schedule. This early on in the season, it is super volatile, so kind of take it with a grain of salt, but I do use it when I'm thinking about my power rankings. The player after, so I update these after the week is done with everyone's results, and then I put in their next opponent, and then I get a separate before week 3 table of strength of schedule. So you're going to see one now and then one at the end of the video, and they're going to be completely different. So after week 2, before the schedule knows your week 3 opponent, the hardest schedule up until this point was Cheat to Win. Then Jordan, Crystal, myself, the Snowman, Stax, Eevee, Gengar, Mike, Kid, Seth, and KD. So the way that it kind of works is I'll kind of explain it this way, is it uses the equation 3 times your opponent's record plus your opponent's record divided by 3. It is very similar to the way that lots of NFL sites and NFL news sources calculate strength of schedule. The only difference is that I upped the importance of the individual match versus your opponent. They usually do 2 times your opponent record. So KD, for example, his week 1 opponent, the Snowman, has an 0-2 record. Cheat to Win, his week 2 opponent, also has an 0-2 record. The opponents of the Snowman and Cheat to Win have a combined +6. So meaning that it's kind of the 2 worst possible opponents that he could have played up at that point. All right, now let's get into the power rankings. At number 12, we have the Snowman. He's the only player who got 0-2'd in terms of games played and in record. He got 0-2'd against myself and against KD. Next up, we have Evie. Evie's kind of in the same boat. 0-2 record, 1 set win, 4 set losses, and a schedule on right in the middle of being easy and hard at this point. At number 10 is myself with a record of 1-1, sets being 2-2. At the beginning of this week, myself and the Snowman were the only players to get 0-2'd in week 1. So for me, beating him, while it does separate us in standings, it doesn't give me too much of a jump in terms of my ranking. I haven't really shown that I can beat one of the top players yet. Next up is Jordan with a 0-2 record. They had the second easiest or the second hardest schedule up at this point. At number 8, I have Cheat to Win. I could go back and forth between number 9 and number 8 because you look at it, they play 2 of the probably top players in the draft right now in KD and Seth, who have both ranked the easiest schedules up until this point. So these kind of go back and forth with each other. So it's kind of a coin flip between who could be 8th and who could be 9th. There's not really anything separating the 2 of them at the moment. In 7th is Mike Black and White. I can't bump him up any higher when he's had one of the easiest schedules so far and only being 1-1. Next up is Cristaro. They had the 3rd easiest schedule up until this point with only having a 1-1 record. They do sit in 8th overall, but they are 6th on my ranking. In 5th is Kid. The runner of my favorite team before the season began is right on the edge of the 4 remaining 2-0 players. So as good as I can put him in my opinion at this point. Next up, the first 4-0 player, and a player who's currently tied for first place, is KD. I do have KD this low because they do have, mathematically, the easiest schedule up until this point. He's played fantastic in both of those games, but neither of his opponents even have a win yet, or even a game win. So his own success is kind of why I have him this far down. Once he plays another one of the top players, then he'll jump right up if he can pull off that win. Next up is Gengar World. For me, they're at number 3. They are 4th overall in the standings, being one of only 2 players to play 6 games so far across their 2 matches. Shows that he doesn't finish his prey as well as some of the other top players who are 2-0 at this point. His team is still strong, he is still good, but I just think the people above have had a little bit more of a killer instinct so far. Number 2 in the power rankings for the week is Seth. Again, having one of the easiest schedules up until this point is his downfall, as well as him not exactly playing the best in game 1 of his set. He kind of just got lucky that Jordan wasn't able to go for the kill in that game, but he made a great recovery in game 2 and showed why he is one of the best players in this league, which is why I have him at number 2. And at number 1, with a 2-0 record, with a 4-0 set record, I have Stacks. Stacks is 2-0 with a 4-0 record, but his schedule isn't even close to the easiest. He had the 6th So dead even in the middle, easiest / hardest schedule. So his schedule is about as even as you could be, and he hasn't dropped a game. For me, that is just perfect about why he should be number 1. He hasn't had it too easy. He's had a fairly decent challenge so far, and he's shown up to the test. And now here I'm just going to quickly go back over the rankings. At number 1, we have Stax, then Seth, then Gengar, KD, Kid, Crystal, Mike, Cheat to Win, Jordan, myself, Eevee, and at number 12, the Snowman. The week 3 schedule looks like this. The last game is my match of the week, so we'll talk about these ones first. First off, we have myself against Kistarl. This is going to be a fun but tough matchup for myself. I don't want to say anything that could be spoilers, that they could listen in on. Don't want to give up any potential information, but it should be a fun match. Going to be quite challenging for myself, I think. Eevee and the Snowman. Let's see if he can get off the bottom with a win here. Both of these players are going to be going for their first win, so it should be a good, intense match. Next up is Cheat to Win and Kid. Kid will want to keep himself in the top half of the standings with a win over Cheat to Win. Next up is Jordan and KD. KD, again, between his 3 sets of opponents, none of them have a win. The Snowman, Cheat to Win, and Jordan. All players who are currently 0-2. Is he going to be able to make Jordan 0-3 and keep it going and probably keep himself in that last spot on the schedule difficulty? We will see. Second last match is Seth and Mike Black and White. This one, they played their match really early this week, so they've actually already played it. I do know the result. I'm not going to say it till the next power ranking video, but it was a fun match. Everything that I said about Seth in this video is almost more true after seeing that. And the match of the week, 2 2-0 players in Stax and Gengar will be going at it. Which one of them will keep the perfect record? Which one of them will lose it? Will Stax be able to keep going flawless in terms of games and move to 6 games, 0 losses in his 3 matches? Now let's talk about the strength of schedule after it's been given everyone's week 3 opponents. Gengar jumps from one of the easiest schedules to the hardest schedule. That's what playing Stax does to you at this point. Next up is Kistarl, then Stax. That just shows how much of a grudge match between those two. The hardest and the 3rd hardest schedule up against each other, battling for potentially first place. Then it's Cheat to Win, Jordan, myself, Mike, Seth, who drops quite a bit with his match this week, against Mike, Eevee, Kid, the Snowman, who, even with his 0-2 record, has one of the easiest schedules according to the math. So he really needs to get a win this week, in my opinion. Then, last up is KD, who, like I said, all 3 of his opponents going into week 3 have had a 0-2 record. So that is my power rankings after week 2 of the FDL. If you guys like the video, hit the buttons all down below, turn on notifications to see when all my new stuff for the channel comes out about this wonderful league and any Reg D stuff that I should be doing pretty soon. I will see you guys in the next video.